Before we begin the video, thank you for helping me hit 100 subscribers. Let's keep that number climbing by hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already, and also turning on the notification bell so that way you'll never miss a new video.
Alright, let's get started.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to a new video, and today we are talking about taking your home studio to the next level. If you watched the last video I uploaded, we talked about getting a home studio started where you can record drums. We went over all the types of gear that's necessary to make that happen and different price points for those types of gear. But today, we're gonna kick it up a notch. Alright, first things first, we gotta make sure that we are keeping our home studio as tidy as possible. If you're constantly untangling wires and stepping over drumsticks and other junk, then it's probably time to start thinking about cleaning up. Now, I would be lying if I said my studio never got cluttered. Here's actually what it looks like when I really get into it. I'm not really worrying about keeping things clean, and wow, what a mess, I know. But here's what it looks like with a little organization in place, much better. Now, in order to keep a tidy studio, the first thing you should determine is what is staying in your studio and what is going. If it doesn't belong in your studio and it's taking up precious space, get rid of it. The simpler the better. And you might be surprised to hear this, but your drum set could actually be eating up precious space in your studio as well. This really only applies to people that are working with a bedroom or a really small room for their studio. If you're Terry Bozzio over there with like 200 cymbals and a wall of drums, then maybe you should consider downsizing your drum set. If you're not sure where to take this, I recommend this setup right here. It forces you to be creative with less things on the set, and it takes up less space in your studio. A bonus with this setup too is you may not need as many mics as you would with a full-size drum set, so there's less clutter there as well. Or you can be stubborn like me and just keep your full drum setup. Just determine what works for you and then go from there. Now, once you've cleaned up a bit of space in your studio, the second thing is determining where everything is going. Having a dedicated spot for everything makes it easier to remember where things are, and it also prevents clutter from building up in your studio. For larger items like my drum set, my percussion gear, and my amps, I like to keep them in the same spot as much as possible, out of the way of foot traffic. And for smaller loose items like smaller percussion gear and cables, I like to keep those in a basket tucked away where I can easily access it. Now, this may seem a bit silly to some of you, but keeping your studio tidy and clean means that you can focus more on making music, and that is vital as a musician. Now, once you got everything organized in your studio, make sure it stays clean, okay? Your mom doesn't live in your studio, make sure to clean every once in a while. Don't forget to dust, vacuum, make sure all your gear is free of dirt, dust, grime, all that good stuff. Alright, moving on to point number 2. Alright, let's talk about workflow. Your workflow is the single most important piece of the process when it comes to making music. If you don't have a good workflow, it gets in the way of your creative thinking and the whole thing fails, and we don't want that. Here are some things that improve my workflow that I think can benefit you greatly. Number 1 is having a proper layout for your studio. For me, having a tidy studio goes hand in hand with a good floor plan. The most important part of my floor plan is that I'm able to get from my drum set over to my workstation easily without anything impeding my way. That way, if I'm in between recording a bunch of takes and editing those takes, not everything is getting in my way and I'm not having such a hard time doing so. You can improve upon this even further by moving your workstation right next to your drum set. That way, everything you need is right in front of you and you never have to get up from your throne. Now, I like to keep my workstation separate, but if you have the space for it, you can consider that option as well. Now, number 2, which in my opinion is a bit overlooked, is a good quality, comfortable chair. Being comfortable and making music is key. If you're sitting there in a really uncomfortable chair trying to work on music, you're probably not going to get much done before you need a break. Now, I really like having a good quality, comfortable chair because 1, it is a one-time investment that will definitely pay off in the long term, and 2, I can make music all day without feeling fatigued. So invest in a good chair, save that good posture while you still got it. Now, number 3 is kind of a big one. It's an efficient labeling system for all of your gear in your studio. This includes labeling of your mics and your cables, as well as on your computer and your DAW. This is the lifeblood of your studio and is what quite literally makes or breaks your workflow. For my physical connections, I use these stickers right here. I put these on my XLR mics and I mark which mics they are for, so that way they stay organized and I don't confuse, and I can just have everything set up the way it is without having to move anything. You can find these at a craft store or an electronics store, or you can even find these on Amazon. Now once I have all of my physical connections organized, I like to route them up to a snake. Now if you don't know what a snake is, basically it's a hub for all your XLR cables. You can hook up all your XLR cables to the snake and you're able to route all of your incoming audio through one big cable. That way you can keep everything organized and you don't have a bunch of cables running through. Before I labeled my cables and had a snake, it was a huge mess trying to run all these XLRs to my interface. You know, I got confused on which was which. I was constantly mixing up incoming audio. It was such a mess. But with the snake and labeling of my gear, it has definitely helped with my workflow. The snake is probably the biggest thing that has helped with my workflow, and I highly recommend you pick up one for yourself too. It is a lifesaver. And after you have all of your organized connections hooked up to your interface, from there you can go into your DAW and set up a custom preset session. Basically, most DAWs allow you to set up a custom preset session every time you open up a new one. So instead of having a blank session, when I open up a new session in my DAW, it has all of the preset tracks with the proper audio routing, gain, staging, volume setting, EQs and plugins. It's all set up and ready to go, so all I have to do when I open up a new session is hit record. This is another huge thing that can save you so much time, especially if you don't stray too far from your mixing style. You could spend about 30 minutes getting this right for yourself, and from then on, it's as simple as hitting record. Lastly, if you want to be able to track yourself, you can send all of your incoming audio back to you using a headphone amp. A headphone amp is pretty self-explanatory. It's basically a hub for different connections which you can hook up headphones to. You can utilize one of the outputs in your interface by getting a cable and setting it up to a headphone amp which you can keep right next to you at your drum set. That way you can play along to anything like a click track or a song that you're practicing. And with that, you have a complete, efficient cycle of flow that will help take your recording to the next level. Alright, now that we got all the boring stuff out of the way, let's check out all the fun stuff. Upgrades.
Upgrades, people, upgrades!
If you've got a nice clean studio and an efficient workflow station, then you can consider upgrading some things around your studio. Sometimes the gear you're using just isn't cutting it anymore, or you just like to have a few extra tools to have around. Here are 3 that I would recommend that you upgrade first. The first thing is an extra snare. If you have extra funds or you can find a good deal somewhere, an extra snare or 2 to hammer on can help create some versatility in your sound. I personally have 3 snare drums, 1, 2, 3, and they're all tuned differently to achieve a different sound. I also keep different tools around to color the sound of each drum as well. You can buy some sound dampening tools to further alter the sound, or you can look around for things around the house, like an old wallet, a bandana, or even a old snare head cutout like I have right here. Don't be afraid to get creative with it. The second thing is sound treatment. If you don't like the way your mixes are sounding, or you don't like the way your room is sounding, you can put up sound treatment to help improve your recordings and get a more clear image of the mix. Now there's all different types of sets for different kinds of rooms. All of them are going to get the job done. If you don't feel like paying for one, then you can always kind of stuff up your room a little, maybe adding a couch, a blanket, some pillows to help kind of dampen some of the overtones. But if you can find a way to put anything on the ceiling, whether that be free or actual paid for sound treatment, that will make the biggest difference when it comes to your sound and your mix. And now the third upgrade, which applies to people who only use headphones for mixing, is a nice set of speakers/monitors. If you've gotten the chance to be able to listen to a mix in both headphones and speakers, you'll come to realize that having speakers helps give a more clear image of the mix. I find that headphones are helpful if you're trying to really dial in to find certain sounds, but a nice set of speakers will help give you a clear image. That way you can make more clear decisions when you're mixing your drums. Here are a few speakers I would recommend. I'm going to put them up right here in front of me. Also, if you check out my previous video, I have some speaker/monitors that I recommend there as well. And there you go. You got a nice upgraded studio with some new bells and whistles, and you have a nice workflow going. I really hope you liked the information in this video. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming videos. I'll see you guys in the next one.